Cool. We're doing a new series all about making better choices. The idea that better choices help make a better life. But before we get on to like how we make choices, I thought I'd just tell you a couple of stories. I was gonna talk about how we make mistakes, because that's part of making choices. You know that if you've made choices in your life, you've probably made mistakes. So I asked my kids, I was like, could you maybe give me some examples of when I've made mistakes? I had to stop them 8 hours ago because they've been talking for the entire week, There was this time that Bess and I, when we'd just been married and we had no children yet, so we could do things like, hey, I know what, let's go to Venice for the weekend. So we did that. And I've heard that in my older years, that sort of freedom is coming back, so I'm looking forward to that. But I've heard that it's there in the future, and Anyway, so we'd gone to Venice for the weekend, and I don't know if I think I've told you some of this story before. I obviously got I tried to do it as a surprise, and I got the departure airport wrong. You might remember that story. I thought it was from Liverpool, because Liverpool Street Station is in London, but I thought it was in Liverpool. So, I should have flown from Stansted, and I thought we were flying from Liverpool. Anyway, it all worked out in the end. We got there okay. But I can't remember if I told you how we got home. So we were supposed to come home, and we were supposed to meet at this big car park and catch the coach, and the coach takes you to the airplane. So we show up, we arrive to an empty car park. And it's like, oh, well, what's happening here, And do you know there's this thing called time zones? I was out by 1 or 2 hours. Anyway, but the good thing was, this taxi pulls up with another inept traveler and his wife. And they get out, and they had done the same thing. And so the four of us shared a cab. We got to the airport on time, and we got home. So, yeah. I mean, it worked out okay, but it was a bit of a dud. Of a mistake. It could have been a lot worse, actually. Could have been stranded in the car park trying to organize another flight home, I guess. There's the other time. We've got, in our back garden, we've got a pear tree, and we had lots of pears this year. And what do you do with a glut of pears? Pear crumble, there's lots of different, so it's mostly cakey kind of things. And so I do lots of the baking in our house. I do most of the cooking. And so grab some pears. I thought, I'll just throw together a crumble. And if you've ever made a crumble, they're easy to make. I mean, you don't really need a recipe for them. They're just easy to do, You might have heard that song, good at making crumble, but no, anyway. You Google it, Britain's Got Talent, years ago. Anyway, so I threw the pears in, peeled them, cut them, threw the stuff in, threw some sugar, and I usually don't use a recipe. I don't follow recipes if I've made it once, I kind of just know what you need to do. So I don't have a recipe. I throw everything in, and I have I thought I'll do it like a spiced topping. So we'll do some cinnamon and other spices for the crumble topping. So I'll throw the crumble topping together. But I have to tell you about my spice cupboard. So I've got lots and lots of spices from lots and lots of places in the world. And until recently, they weren't labeled. Because I did all the cooking. I knew what was in there. There's all random things from all sorts of different places. And, yeah. So there's hundreds. There's a lot of spices. But I have to tell you this. You all know this. Did you know cumin and cinnamon look a lot alike? Now, all right, any of the police officers in the building, I've got 2 pouches of some sort of powder. You can smell it and taste it, and you can just make sure that we're not peddling anything illegal here this morning. But cumin and cinnamon look quite similar. And when you are in that position of you just know what you're doing, and so you just grab something and throw it in and mix it all together. Now, a pear and cumin crumble is kind of a weird combination, okay? It's not really, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not really the way forward. And but anyway, like I said, all of my spice jars are labeled in the house now. Someone in my family got a bit annoyed that everything wasn't unlabeled and thought it should be better if it was organized. So you can draw the connections yourselves on that. But those were silly mistakes, weren't they? Those were not really life-threatening, unless someone had a cumin severe allergy. They were okay. It wasn't really gonna really make a big mistake. But those are mistakes, and we all make mistakes, don't we? You probably already know this. You've also maybe done simple ones where I did this once before I met a client. I was dark. I had to travel to see them in the morning, and I grabbed a pair of socks, and I thought they were black socks. And I actually grabbed one black one and one blue one, which would have been all right if I hadn't also grabbed my slippers instead of my loafers. And when I met with this person, I was a financial advisor, I was praying to God that they did not see my feet under this desk to see that I was actually wearing slippers. Yes, I'm so professional. I'm going to talk to you about how you invest quite a bit of money. But yes, I'm hiding my feet under the desk because, yes, I've got slippers and wrong mismatched socks on. So I don't know, maybe you've done things like that. We've probably all taken a wrong turn when we're driving. It's probably, other little mistakes. We probably all burned food if we've cooked something in the kitchen, or maybe we've been to a restaurant and ordered some food and thought, ugh, I'll never order that again, or never go here again, or sit down and watch a movie and you think, man, that was like the worst 2 hours of my life. I will never get that back. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. We all make like silly little mistakes. But of course, other mistakes are bigger than that. Maybe they're too overwhelming. Maybe they're like life decisions, and you think, if only I could go back and do something different. Or maybe we've even got mistakes in our life that we don't even want to talk about. That we sort of think, the most distance I can get from that choice, the better. The more we can get rid of that, the better. And maybe it was a financial decision, maybe it was a relational decision, maybe it was a decision for an occupation, maybe it was a decision with someone else in your family. Maybe some other types of choices that you've made in your life that really are messes of our own making. It wasn't like it happened to us, but if we really are honest about it, it was really us that made this mess. And we all know this is true, don't we? We know that if we could go back in time, that our biggest regrets we could avoid if we would have made better choices from the start. We know that, And that's what we're looking at this month. The whole idea that better choices can make for a better life. Just practical series. Want to start the year with something really practical. Better choices can make for a better life. Because whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, our heart for you as Christians, as followers of Jesus, is that you would have a better life. And here's what I mean by that. I don't mean that your life is ever going to be perfect and no problems and rosy and no challenges. What I mean is you'd have a better life in terms of how you handle conflict. You'd have a better life in terms of how you handle relationships. You'd have a better life in terms of how you handle disappointments. You'd have a better life in how you handle anxieties or depression, or how you handle challenges. You'd have a better life in how you handle your finances, because actually, as followers of Jesus, God is for you, and He wants to help you have a better life by helping you make better decisions. It's not a better life in the sense that you'll never have any problems and you're somehow some sort of superhero, some Superman, Superwoman that has no problems, no sickness, no challenges, no difficulties. it's not that. It's bigger than that. It's actually better than that. It's a better life in the sense that you have better relationships and better choices and better responses and better reactions. God's heart for you is to help you have a better life. Because following Jesus is actually incredibly practical. And that's what this series for the beginning of the year is all about. We want to be helpful and hopeful with some of the stuff that we do. And, well, I'll just have to leave it. I think that's the third time I've almost knocked it over, so I think I'll just leave it now. I got 3 little practical things that we're just going to look at this morning. And the first thing is this. The first thing is because we make mistakes when we make choices, don't we? And I think that we have to accept that we will make mistakes. We just have to accept that it's part of making choices. We will make mistakes. Or we have made mistakes. We will make mistakes. It's sort of unavoidable. And I'm going to ask something. I already know the answer. How many of us fell over when we were learning to walk? My guess is, I'm going to put my money on this. I'm going to say 100% of us in this room fell over more times than you even remember before you learned how to walk. As you learned to crawl, jump, skip, run, climb things. You know, you might remember a time when you were maybe 4 or 5 years old and you went a bit too high on that tree than you should have, or you fell off a bunk bed. You probably remember times like that. Maybe you had siblings who helped you fall off. I don't know. But growing up in life is part of making mistakes. And actually, as children, we grew up and we've learned to walk. So all of us have done that. You know, all of us have probably said the wrong thing at the wrong time. I'm going to again put my money on this one. I'm going to say 100% of us have done this at some point in our lives. We've said the wrong thing at the wrong time. We've even said the wrong thing at the right time. And we've even said the right thing at the wrong time. But however we mix it up and try to justify it and explain it, it still ends up being wrong. Because the right thing said in the wrong way isn't good. And the wrong thing said in the right way isn't good either. So I'm going to put my money on it. 100% of us have said the wrong thing in the wrong way at the wrong time at some point in our lives. And if you're parents or in a relationship, you have made some sort of mistake in a relationship, or you have made some sort of mistake in the workplace. It just is par for the course. You might have even failed your driving test a few times. You might have bumped into something when you were driving your car, if you drive your car. Hopefully you haven't put the wrong petrol when you should have put diesel in a car. But if you have, like I did once, thankfully I noticed after a few liters, I stopped and I filled the car up the rest of the way with the correct fuel, which works, by the way. It was a hire car. It didn't matter. No, just kidding. We all make mistakes. I think we have to accept that part of life and part of growing up and being children and going from immature to mature is making mistakes. We have to be willing to make mistakes. We have to accept that we will make mistakes. No matter, even as adults, as we try not to, we still at times will probably still make mistakes. And so the second thing is not only do we have to accept that we make mistakes, the second thing is we have to learn from those mistakes. Because it's pointless if we don't learn from it, isn't it? If I don't learn from my mistake and learn when I fell over, when I was learning to walk, if I didn't learn from those mistakes, I wouldn't have gotten back up. If I didn't learn that, cumin and cinnamon are different spices altogether, if I didn't learn that petrol and diesel are different fuels, if I didn't learn there's certain times and certain ways to say things, and there's better ways to respond, and not everybody needs to be spoken to the same way or treated the same way. If you didn't learn these things, you're just going to make the same mistake over and over and over. It's like driving a car on a roundabout forever. You're doing a lot of motion, you're spending a lot of energy, but you're actually getting nowhere because you're just going around and around and around and around and around that roundabout. So we need to learn from our mistakes. And throughout this series, we're looking at some verses from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is what they are, proverbs, sayings of wisdom. And this guy Solomon was this king in ancient Israel. And he's given us some really helpful, really practical things. And he gives us this visual to help us remember how important it is to learn from our mistakes. And it's going to help you and it's going to help us, but I'm going to have to give you a little warning up front. It's probably a little bit gross, okay? If you're 14, you'd probably think this is the coolest verse in the Bible anyway. Or if you have a maturity level like me. So this is what Solomon says. In Proverbs 26:11, he says, like a dog that goes back to its vomit, so a fool returns to their folly. If you don't learn from your mistake, that's like, just give yourself a moment to consider that visual picture of, maybe you have a dog so you know what it's like. Your dog has been sick, and then your dog cleans it up itself by eating it or licking it. I can't think of anything a bit more gross. We've probably all been sick in our lives. I cannot think that actually when I've ever been sick that I had any inkling in my mind, I wonder what that tastes like. Yeah. Oh, well, hey, it was nice the first time. I'm going to have it again. Oh, nice. Give me some ketchup, please, honey. Come on. Can you think of anything more revolting than going back to you're sick? And this is how gross and wise this passage is from Solomon. He's saying, like a dog going back to their sick is a fool that goes back to his folly or her folly. To make the mistake again and again, to not learn from your mistakes is as disgusting and as foolish as a dog eating up its own sick. So that'll help you next time you want to make choices in life. You got to think, wait a minute. I've been around this roundabout before. I ain't going to do this same sort of thing now. I need to learn from my mistake. I don't want to be a vomit-eating dog, woof, woof. I don't know. It's like, I told you, your kids will love this verse if you haven't let them read this one. First, Jesus spits in people's eyes. Now we got animals being sick. What kind of church is this, right? Like a dog returns to his vomit. And it should help us. It should really help give us some guidance. So the three things so far. So the first two were we have to accept that we will make mistakes. We have to learn from those mistakes. And the third thing we have to put into practice to make better choices is to get back up and try again. We got to get back up. We got to try again. Just like when you were a little child, you don't even remember this, but you did it. When you fell over, you still got back up. And you learned to walk. And you learned to jump and skip and run and leap and all those kind of things. You learned how to do it. We got to get back up again. And that's incredibly important. It's so important. And do you know why it's so important? Because sometimes the regret of the past prevents us from doing things in the future. Sometimes the shame or the regret or the feeling that we've just made such a bad choice in this area or in this situation, we just feel like it cripples you. That's what it does. It cripples you from being unable to take another step, to take a risk or to try again. Sometimes we've done things that knock us for six so badly that we don't get up in that area. It might look fine on the outside, but there's an area in our lives that we just kind of don't go there. It's deeper than just having your confidence knocked. It's something like just feeling unable to get, back up again. Sometimes it's not as easy as deciding to, make the crumble properly next time. Sometimes it's not as easy to sort of remember, put the right fuel in the car. Sometimes these mistakes that we've made in our lives they hold us back. They become like heavy burdens, heavy things. And Solomon also wrote this. He wrote this in the book of Proverbs as well. And this one says in Proverbs 24, and this is really encouraging. So the first thing was a bit gross with a dog, but this one this will give us a bit more encouragement. He says, the righteous or the wise falls 7 times, but gets up again. The fool stumble in times of disaster and collapse. I'd like to be wise. I'd also like to be so wise that I don't fall over. However, Solomon is telling us that the wise person, even the wise person, the righteous person, still falls 7 times. The difference is that you don't make mistakes. The difference is that you get up again. The difference is that you haven't sort of stumbled and you're still learning to walk. That's not the difference. The difference between foolish and wise is that you get up and you keep going, that you learn from your mistake. Because a foolish person, they just see calamity and they stumble and they get stuck again. I don't know if you've ever had a friend or a colleague who had a situation in life and it just kind of like, they keep going through the same stuff. It could be with different people, right? I mean, it's like, oh, yeah. Well, I saw how that relationship was going to end because that's how your last 6 relationships have ended. I don't know if you ever worked with people like that or know people like that. Maybe you've been like that yourself. I think that's so encouraging. Don't you think that's encouraging? And maybe sometimes we feel like we have to be righteous and so perfect that we never make any mistakes. And you shouldn't make a mistake on purpose, of course not. But when we fall, we learn from our mistake and we get up and we try again. When we fall, we learn from our mistakes, we get up and we try again. That's wisdom. That's real wisdom. And if we don't, we're like dogs eating sick, and we're like foolish people who just stumble and get stuck in life. And I don't know if you're a follower of Jesus or not yet, but I don't want you to be stuck in life. I want the best for you. I don't want you to go through life feeling like you're stuck. That every situation's come around again, and you feel like you stumble, and maybe you're stuck. I don't want that for you. You probably don't want that for you either. We all do these things. So those 3 things, summary, we have to accept that we'll make mistakes. We have to learn from our mistakes, and we have to get back up again. I want to tell you another story. I've never told this story before, not in public. So we had been married probably just over a year. So this is nearly 25 years married this summer. So it's probably like 24 years ago. Some of you didn't think I was that old, did you? I got married when I was 10. Anyway, so we'd been married for about a year. We were living up with my in-laws. We had a space above their garage. There was a room above the garage that we had. And we used to work at a golf course. It was a golf club just literally kind of just up the road, so just end of the road, walking distance. And so we were working there while Beth was finishing off her degree at university. So we got married. She was halfway through her degree, so we're finishing off her degree. And living there at the time. This is up near Lancaster. And there was a group of us that were going to go to watch a movie. And Beth didn't come with us. And I don't know why she didn't want to see The Phantom Menace. Because it was the first new Star Wars film that had come out in forever. And I mean, you're just like, you can't even understand why anyone would not want to see that film, right? I mean, you're like, yeah, of course. It's been 24 years, This was, why would you want to go see a new Star Wars film after 24 years and be there for the opening night? Of course. Why would you ever want to do that? Yeah. So, why would I ever want to do that? Because it's the most amazing thing, right? So I did that, and we went together. There was a group of us. She was not interested in going. I have no idea why. So she didn't want to come along. Yeah, suit yourself, Your loss, my gain. So we went to go see the film, and then after the film, we came back to the golf club, and and they said, "Oh, we'll just stop. We'll have one drink at the club." Yeah, at the golf club. No, everybody worked there, so you could just go in there and use the space. And some of the duty managers were with us to go see the film at the time, anyway. So I don't know if you've ever been in one of those situations where they say to you, "Let's have one drink," and it ends up being a couple. And then and then there comes a point where you're not really sure what it was or how many it was. And I've never been in that situation before. I've never experienced that situation before. And I don't tell this story with any sense of pride or glory, but I don't remember what happened the rest of the night. I got home, because I woke up at home. I don't remember how we got home. We were just at the end of the road, just literally just walked down the street. So it's very close to where the house was. in relation to the golf course. And I was told, like a dog, I was sick everywhere. I don't remember it. I was told by someone else that I was angry and said things that were mean and hurtful. I don't even remember it. I was told that I'd fallen over a few times in the bathroom. I'd fallen my own sick. I don't remember it. I was told that somebody else had to clean me up. That somebody else, even though it wasn't a mess of their making, somebody else dealt with my mess. They got my mess on them. They got my sick on them. I'm sorry, it's a bit gross this morning, but that's the reality of what it was. And I only know this secondhand because I have no recollection. I have no recollection of it at all. Not a good choice. let me tell you that. Not a good choice. And it was totally a mess of my own making. Totally a mess of my own making. How do you get back up from those? How do we get back up? How do we even feel within ourselves? Because my own personality, my own morality, my own ethics, I just felt like such a failure. Felt like, not such a failure, such a fool. It's not something I'm proud of or even would want to do. And you have that plumb line in yourself, in your own heart, and you're just like, how did this, it can happen to anyone, it can happen to all of us, but we can all move into places where we thought we'd never go. Do things that we never thought we would do or want to do. And it's embarrassing, actually. It's not really funny. You could try to make a joke out of it, but it's not really funny, is it? It's embarrassing. It's shameful. It's regretful. And if I could go back in time, man, if only I could go back in time and just walk home. Choose not to stay. Choose to do something different. Choose to just behave different. Because those kind of decisions hurt other people in the process, don't they? Maybe this has happened to you, maybe you know what I'm talking about. These kinds of decisions betray trust. These kind of decisions undermine your character. These kind of decisions damage your reputation. These kind of decisions hurt other people. And the ones that get hurt the most are the ones that are closest to you, because they're the ones that see you for how you really are, and the ones that are closest to you are the ones that you don't want to actually hurt in this way. But they're the ones that get hurt the most when you behave this way. Maybe you know this is true. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. It's a regretful moment in my life. Maybe this has happened to you because maybe you were the one to help clean someone up. Maybe you're the one that had to help manage a mess that was not of your making. That you had to sort of repair what you could. Or maybe you had to have someone else clean you up. And I don't know if you're a follower of Jesus yet or not, but that, my friends, is the story of the gospel. When we were in a mess of our own making, as disgusting and silly and embarrassing and shameful, that we couldn't remember or couldn't understand or couldn't even get ourselves out of, someone else came and cleaned us up. Someone else got on their hands and knees in the midst of our mess and cleaned us up. And it wasn't even their mess to clean up. That is the story of the gospel. That is the heart of what Jesus does for us, will do for you. And in spite of our mistakes and our messes, that's how we can really, truly get up again. It's not about your self-will. It's not about your determination. It's not about deciding, yes, I will, I will, I will. It's bigger than that. It's more than that. It's knowing that you have been forgiven and accepted and chosen and loved and affirmed, and that somebody else chose to give of themselves even though it wasn't a mess of their making. And when somebody loves you that way, when someone loves you that way, you know that no matter how big your mistake is, you can get up again. That's how we really learn from our mistakes. And no matter where we've journeyed in life, no matter where we've gone in life, there is still someone who has a rescue plan for you. There's someone who has you on their radar and knows no matter where you go, no matter where you've been, no matter where you run, no matter how far you've fallen or how embarrassing or shameful or regretful you feel or have felt, no matter how far you go, there was someone who has your name on their heart. Because that is the whole point of Jesus coming to earth. Willing to give up everything to rescue his beloved. To rescue someone in spite of the messes that they had made. So when you read the Bible is not a book of heroes that tells you how you should behave and what you should do and an expectation and a standard of here. The Bible's not about that. The Bible's not about you being so good and proving how good you are. The Bible is all about how good God is. Even our best efforts aren't enough. That's the story of the gospel. And it's not about you being so perfect. It's about God who is perfect meeting us in our imperfections. Meeting us where we are at. And when you read the stories, the first-hand accounts of those who were closest to Jesus, those followers of Jesus, you read that they made mistakes often. Those Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are so full of eyewitness, first-hand accounts of things that they did and the mistakes that they made. It's incredible. It's so honest. The Bible is so honest. And Jesus is willing to go into those places. Solomon's father was a guy named David. And David was also a king in Israel, and he wrote a book called Psalms. He wrote most of the books of Psalms. And Psalms is like songs. He wrote their songs is what they are. And he writes this song. It's in it's there, and it says I think it's in Psalm 40, verse 1, and it says this: I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and he heard my cry. He lifted me up out of the mud and the mire, the slimy pit. He set my feet on a rock. He gave me a firm place to stand, and he put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. We don't know the context there. David might be writing about an experience when he was sort of in a pit, and it might have been a mess of his own making. It could have been his own fault that he was there. And he needed a rescuer. He needed someone to come and get him out of the mud and the mire, out of the mess. And it says, he set my feet on a rock. He gave me a firm place to stand. But he doesn't stop there. He put a new song in my mouth. See, that's what happens when you encounter Jesus. He doesn't just get you up and out of the messy pit or the muck and the mire and lift you out of this place and just wash you off and say, okay, now you're in a better place and that's it. Something changes on the inside, which can come out. He puts a new song in your heart. He's not content to just see you cleaned up and put you on somewhere solid and put you on a firm place. He wants something to change from the inside. He puts a new song in your heart. And those situations that you've experienced in the past, they don't have to be a song of shame and a song of regret and a song of failure and a song of I'm so no good and I'm so rubbish and I'm so that. Actually, he puts a new song in your mouth, the song that says, I am loved, I am chosen, I'm your beloved, I have been bought with a price, I have been accepted, I've been forgiven, I've been given a new name, I've been put in a new place, and I have a new song in my heart. The thing that comes out of me is now something totally different than what it was before. David writes this song, and he says, he's lifted me out of this mess, and he's put my feet on a rock, and there's something new that's coming out of me. There's a song that comes out. And this is the transforming love and power of what Jesus does in our lives. And the best choice we can make, the best choice any of us can make, is to cry out when we need a Savior. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he heard my cry. And he lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and the mire. The best thing we can do, the best choice we can do when we're in a place that we shouldn't be in or not even want to be in anymore, the best thing we can do is cry out. Cry out. And there's a rescuer waiting to jump in and lift us out of that place. And not only will they clean you up, not only does Jesus clean us up, he changes us from the inside out. This is the message of the gospel. This is the story of what Jesus does for all of us. I don't know if you've yet made that decision in your life, but as we close, I'm just going to give you a moment to actually do so. And whether you're here in the room or watching online or watching later on demand, you just have an opportunity. Because you might feel like you're in that place and I haven't yet said, I need a Savior. I need you to be my rescuer. And maybe today is the day that you make that choice. Maybe today is your day. So what I'd like us to do is just bow our heads. We're going to just close our eyes. And I want you to just think for yourself, just reflect in your own heart where you're at for your own life. And I'm going to ask you to consider making a choice to say, Jesus, be my rescuer. Be my Savior. I know that I need you. And if that's in your heart, if you feel today, I know that I need you. If you're here in the room, if you feel in your heart that that's the decision you need to make today, I'd like to ask you to do something brave and bold and just raise your hand. Just say, yeah, that's me. I know today I need to make that decision to become a follower of Jesus. And if you're watching online, you can put a comment online or you can contact us so we can follow this up with you. I just want to pray for everyone this morning. Father, thank you that we can learn from our mistakes. Thank you that in spite of our mistakes, you still love us. Help us to learn from our mistakes. And help us to just be so incredibly grateful for the new song that you've put in our lives. God, I just pray for anyone here who might be watching this or here this morning who feels shame or regret. God, I just ask that you would heal their hearts. We know that what happened wasn't good, but it doesn't mean that they're not good. The stuff that happened was a mistake, but we know that we are not mistakes. I just ask in your kindness that you would wash over. If anyone is here today that needs to be set free from something that's held us back, I ask that you would set people free. Thank you that you are so kind and good. Thank you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Maybe if you, one of your next steps to find out more about what Jesus is like is to join the Alpha course. So we're starting the Alpha course 24th of January. It's a great way to find out more about why Jesus came, what he came to do, what he can do for your life, what he can do for your loved ones, your family. If that's of interest to you, please speak to one of us or check the details on the board as well. We've got a few minutes now. We don't need to collect the children till just gone 12. So if you want to chat about anything, grab another coffee, hang out for a bit, please feel free to do so. And then next week we will carry on looking at making better choices. Amen.